The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, is an agency of the Department of Labor. It is responsible for overseeing workplace health and safety standards, including indoor air quality. For the past 7 years, OSHA has devoted time and manpower to the investigation of workplace indoor air quality issues. In a recent press release, the agency stated some of its findings. Indoor air quality problems can occur in all types and ages of buildings. Generally, indoor air pollution may be caused by physical, chemical, or microbiological agents and is aggravated by poor ventilation. While the agency is aware that there are many factors affecting indoor air quality, increasingly it has focused its attention on one substance, environmental tobacco smoke, ETS. In April of 1994, OSHA proposed standards for indoor air quality, which include stringent regulations on workplace smoking. If implemented, the proposal will essentially ban smoking in all indoor workplaces, including offices, restaurants, bars, and hotels. OSHA's proposal has generated the largest public reaction in the history of this agency. It received well over 100,000 letters and statements from American employers and employees. The overwhelming majority oppose the proposed smoking ban. For the past 6 months, the agency has been preparing for public hearings designed to give a variety of interested parties the opportunity to express their views on the proposed smoking ban. The public hearings began on September 20th, 1994. OSHA's most knowledgeable officials in the area of indoor air quality and ETS testified on the first 2 days of the hearings, which are scheduled to continue through December 1994.
Isn't it true the standard states that the employer shall assure that employees are not required to enter designated smoking areas in the performance of normal work activities? Do I need to look up the site?
I think that's correct.
Okay. And then the preamble goes on to say that it is OSHA's intent that no work of any kind shall be performed in a designated area when smoking is taking place?
That's in OSHA's intent, yes.
And that is still OSHA's intent?
Yes.
So if an employer allowed an employee to perform work in a designated smoking area, the employer would be in violation of the standard?
Yes.
Okay, let's take my law offices. Let's suppose that my law firm decides to implement this standard goes into effect, and the law firm decides to have a designated smoking area. And I go in there and smoke a cigarette. Can I read a work-related memorandum?
You know, I think that there are a number of scenarios that will come up during the course of these hearings, including some that you're starting to bring up now and may continue to bring up. There are a number of scenarios that raise intriguing, interesting, important questions that we may not have thoroughly thought through.
Tell me, what is the size of the indoor workforce in the United States as to which OSHA has jurisdiction?
Excuse me, you're asking specifically for the number of workers who work in industrial settings?
I'm asking for the number of workers in the United States who work indoors and are subject to OSHA jurisdiction.
You mean industrial and non-industrial?
Industrial and non-industrial.
Okay. She will try to provide you that number.
You will provide us with that number?
That's 70. The answer is 71.
Okay, Mr.
We'll
Marcano.
provide that number for you later.
Has the agency made a simple study of the number of people in society who are smokers?
We have that information on the record.
Right. And that information shows, doesn't it, that today, as you have in your proposed rulemaking, approximately 29% of workers in the workplace are smokers, and that compares with numbers approaching 50% in previous decades.
Yeah, I can't recall the specific number.
You recognize, do you not, that current smoking patterns in 1994 are significantly different from historic smoking patterns in this country?
Yes.
That is, there's lower consumption generally in society, isn't there?
I don't know about that.
If there are only 70 million workers in the United States who are working in enclosed and indoor spaces, how can there be 74 million non-smokers subject to this regulation?
I note that OSHA has cited in the preamble of the Notice of Proposed Rulemaking in connection with adult pulmonary problems and smoking, EPA's conclusion, and I'm going to quote, that recent evidence suggests that passive smoking has subtle but statistically significant effects on respiratory health of adults. The question is this: why did OSHA feel no corresponding need to refer to or discuss other reviews, including other governmental reviews in the United States and abroad, that had reached a contrary conclusion?
You know, OSHA tried to move in a fairly quick way to get this proposal out. You know, I guess it's possible for us to dwell upon this for years and years, but we selected a path in which was we would show those diseases where we thought we could quantify risks and rest primarily upon those findings to justify the standard.
Was the Helsing study intended to be an investigation of the relationship between exposure to ETS and coronary heart disease?
Okay. Well, I'm not sure we're really prepared to go into a whole lot of detail to date regarding all the aspects of that study. We do have a witness that we've hired who is going to testify, I think, tomorrow morning, who will who's extremely familiar with all these factors, and although we don't necessarily agree with we don't know whether we agree with everything that individuals say, because we're not forcing that individual to say anything. We believe that his viewpoints will provide information regarding the confidence we have in this one study.
Did the witness who's coming tomorrow, did he write the notice of proposed rulemaking, or did someone in your department?
This was written inside of OSHA.
Well, then talking to the right people about what you mean by things in the rulemaking. So back to my question, was that study intended to investigate the relationship between exposure of ETS and the relationship between that and heart disease?
Well, the study, I suppose the study speaks for itself.
Is that your answer?
Yes.
What data were gathered in the Helsing study on factors and exposures that might be related to coronary heart disease?
Yeah, the questions that you're asking, I already gave a general answer for, getting into details of the study.
You know, it's,
I told you already, you know, that this was a rough estimate, and we're looking forward to interaction with the public on the issue, and we've explained that there is somebody who is going to be able to explain in more detail the reason this study, we think, is a good study. But I mean, you can keep going on and asking more questions about the study, but I don't think that's going to get anywhere.
And the reason I am, Mr. Martonic, is because this is the study that you chose, your department chose, as the study which you said is the best available study to do your risk assessment. I'm not asking about the other studies. I'm asking about the one you specifically cite and describe.
So under this text, as you have submitted, smoking can only take place outside of buildings or in a non-work room, which has been designated as a smoking lounge and is under negative pressure. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, that would mean, for example, just as a simple example, that a judge at 10 o'clock in his chambers, all alone, reading a book, couldn't light a pipe. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I assume you agree that the agency's intent is not to cover private residences?
That's correct.
I mean, that's what the notice said. What if someone has an office as part of their residence?
I think we start to get into extremely detailed discussions here because we're going to end up... Yeah. Right.
What's the application to,
Well, we're going to start
to those offices?
We're going to start to get into discussions about what the layout of that building is and where in it there are living quarters and work quarters, and who is doing the work.
Well, can you enlighten us as to how the agency views that situation?
I don't know where the discussion
Oh, okay.
ends up.
Does the agency acknowledge that as currently worded, the standard would have the effect of banning smoking in all restaurants, bars, and taverns?
If there were circumstances in which customers could smoke in the bar or restaurant in such a way that employees would not be exposed, then that would meet the intent to protect employees.
I hesitate to talk in absolutes, but I can't conceive of a way that a restaurant or a bar could permit smoking on its premises under the terms of this regulation.
There might be self-service areas that were enclosed and exhausted.
Who's going to clean up the dishes? Who's going to mop the floors? Who's going to wipe off the tables?